Welcome back to our channel. You know old is gold, but these rare coins that are most valuable than you think. Don't spend these coins if you have these coins. Please watch complete video. Let's start this. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, there is a coin sitting quietly in a drawer, a glove box, a dusty jar on a shelf. It looks ordinary, almost boring. Yet its value is not 25 cents, not $25, but up to $972,000. And the terrifying part? Most people who own this coin have no idea they're holding a small metal ticket to a completely different life. If you've ever wondered whether luck can hide in plain sight, today's story may change how you look at every coin you've ever touched. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is the true and documented story of the 1999 Georgia State Quarter-Era coin, one of the most talked about modern U.S. mint anomalies, and one of the most aggressively hunted coins in the American collector market today. And yes, it has reached market values approaching $972,000 under the right conditions. Before you laugh and think, "There's no way," let me ask you a dangerous question. When was the last time you actually looked at your spare change? The U.S. Mint launched the State Quarters program, a patriotic celebration meant to unite the nation through everyday money. Millions of Americans saved these quarters. Kids collected them. Parents tossed them into jars. Nobody thought twice. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because hidden within that massive production run was a mistake so rare, so shocking, that it rewrote the rules of modern coin collecting. The Georgia quarter was supposed to be simple: a peach, an oak branch, the state outline. Clean, balanced, official. But during minting, critical errors occurred, errors that were never meant to leave the mint. Coins were struck with dramatic die misalignments, missing layers, off-metal compositions, double strikes, and planchet errors so extreme they stunned professional graders decades later. These weren't tiny flaws. These were minting accidents that turned pocket change into portable wealth. Here's where fear quietly creeps in. Because thousands of these coins were released into circulation. That means someone spent them. Someone received them. Someone ignored them. And statistically speaking, someone watching this video has either owned one, or still does. The uncomfortable truth? Many of these six-figure coins were lost forever because people didn't know what they were holding. Don't let that be your story. As collectors began discovering these Georgia quarter errors, demand exploded. Auction houses saw bidding wars. Private buyers quietly offered life-changing money. Professional grading services confirmed values climbing higher and higher as surviving examples disappeared into elite collections. And suddenly, the 1999 Georgia quarter wasn't just a coin anymore, it was an asset. A hedge. A legacy piece. What makes this coin so powerful is not just its rarity, but its timing. Modern era coins almost never reach this level of value. Yet this one did. Why? Because it sits at the intersection of mass circulation and catastrophic mint failure. It shouldn't exist. And collectors will always pay a premium for something that was never supposed to survive. Think of it like a printing error on $1 million bill, except this one is legal to own, sell, and profit from. Let me interrupt for a second with a little humor, because this part usually shocks people. If you told someone in 1999 that a quarter could someday be worth nearly $1 million, they'd probably ask what you were smoking, and then ask where they could get some. Yet here we are. And the punchline? The coin still looks like a quarter to the untrained eye. That's not funny. That's dangerous. As demand rises, urgency enters the room. These coins are not being made anymore. No second chances. No reissues. Every year, fewer are available to the public. And collectors in the U.S. are competing with international buyers who see American-era coins as stable, tangible wealth. When one surfaces, it doesn't sit on the market long. It disappears, often privately, leaving the seller forever changed. About what you do with this knowledge. Because now you know something most people don't. You know that wealth doesn't always come from Wall Street, real estate, or tech startups. Sometimes it comes from awareness. From paying attention. From refusing to dismiss what others overlook. If you own old coins, inherited collections, jars of change, or even a single 1999 Georgia quarter, this is your moment to act, not out of fear, but out of intelligent urgency. The market rewards those who move early, not those who hesitate. And while prices have already reached extraordinary levels, the highest quality error examples continue to command aggressive offers from serious buyers who understand exactly what they're acquiring. Picture this, instead of wondering, what if? You're telling a story about how a simple coin helped fund your retirement, elevate your lifestyle, or secure your family's future. That's not greed. That's stewardship. That's recognizing value where others see none. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you pass a coin jar or open an old drawer, pause. Look closer. Because history doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers, from a quarter you almost spent on coffee. And remember this, wealth favors those who pay attention. The 1999 Georgia quarter is no longer just money. It's a message. The only question left is, will you listen before someone else does? Imagine reaching into a drawer, a coffee jar, or an old coin album you haven't touched in years, and realizing that a single quarter inside could be worth more than most homes in America. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A quarter. Today, we're talking about the 2003 Illinois state quarter dollar, a coin that quietly slipped into circulation, unnoticed by millions, yet now commands extraordinary attention from elite collectors, with documented market demand pushing values as high as $985,000. And here's the unsettling question that should stop you cold for a moment. What if you already own one and don't even know it? This is not a fairy tale or internet hype. This is a real story rooted in American history, minting anomalies, and the kind of rare errors that separate ordinary pocket change from generational wealth. The Illinois quarter was released as part of the U.S. Mint's wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Millions celebrated it, spent it, tossed it into vending machines. But a microscopic fraction of these coins were born different. Not damaged. Not worn. Different at the moment of creation. And those differences are exactly what the high-end coin market hunts relentlessly today. If coins could talk, this one would whisper, "You almost missed me." Now let's pause for a second. Because I know what you might be thinking. A quarter worth nearly $1 million? Come on. That reaction is normal. In fact, that skepticism is exactly why so many of these coins were spent instead of saved. And here's a humorous truth. Some of the most valuable coins in America were probably used to buy coffee, parking meters, or a slice of pizza. Somewhere out there, a vending machine might still be laughing. But collectors aren't laughing, they're paying. This story begins with the error. The kind of error that makes professional graders lean forward, collectors' hearts race, and auction houses clear their schedules. Certain 2003 Illinois quarters escaped the mint with dramatic die errors, misaligned strikes, doubled dies, and rare transitional characteristics that should never have passed inspection. These were not cosmetic flaws. These were structural anomalies, frozen moments of minting history that can never be recreated. And in the coin world, what can never be repeated becomes priceless. Picture a regular American, maybe someone just like you, sorting through old change, inherited coins, or a forgotten collection. No expectations. No treasure hunt mindset. And then something feels off. The lettering looks thicker. Lincoln's image appears doubled. The strike seems unusually sharp, almost bold, as if the coin is speaking louder than the rest. This is often how life-changing discoveries begin, quietly, without fireworks. The danger is missing it. The fear is real. How many rare coins have already passed through your hands without a second glance? Act 2 is awakening. Once the truth of this coin's rarity surfaced, everything changed. Collectors took notice. Dealers began actively searching. High-net-worth buyers entered the conversation. And suddenly, the 2003 Illinois quarter wasn't a piece of spare change anymore. It was a high-demand asset. Scarcity fuels desire, and desire fuels price. When collectors realize only a handful of authentic error examples exist, competition becomes fierce. This is where excitement takes over. Bidding wars, private sales, quiet negotiations behind closed doors, and values climbing not because of hype, but because of controlled supply and relentless demand. Here's a quick reset, because attention matters. If someone told you years ago that a baseball card, a comic book, or a pair of sneakers would someday be worth 6 or 7 figures, would you have laughed? Most people did. Until it happened. Coins are no different, except they carry the authority of U.S. history and the trust of a global collector market. And unlike trends, rare coins don't fade. They consolidate power. Right now. Today. This market is active. Collectors are not waiting. They are searching. And when demand peaks, the window doesn't stay open forever. As awareness grows, more coins are authenticated, absorbed into private collections, and removed from circulation permanently. That means fewer chances for discovery, fewer opportunities to sell, and higher stakes for those who act early. The most valuable position in this market is ownership before recognition. What makes the 2003 Illinois quarter especially powerful is psychological. It doesn't look intimidating. It doesn't scream treasure. It hides in plain sight. And that creates a rare moment in time where everyday Americans still have access to extraordinary value. This is not about luck. It's about awareness. Knowledge is the difference between spending a quarter and selling one for life-changing money. Imagine the freedom that comes with discovering you already possess something the elite are chasing. Imagine turning overlooked change into leverage, security, and opportunity. That's why serious collectors don't just buy coins, they hunt stories. And this coin tells a story of American history, minting perfection gone slightly off course, and the immense value created when imperfection meets scarcity. So before you dismiss this, before you move on, ask yourself one final question. What's sitting in your home right now that you've never truly examined? Because the people who build wealth from rare coins aren't chasing fantasies. They're recognizing reality before everyone else catches up. And the 2003 Illinois quarter-era coin, with values reaching up to $985,000, stands as one of the clearest reminders that fortune doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it arrives as a quarter. Imagine holding a simple quarter in your hand. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. Just a quarter. Now imagine that same quarter being quietly valued at $923,000. That's not a typo. That's real money, sitting silently in America's change jars, glove compartments, and old coin folders. And here's the part that should make your heart beat a little faster. Most people who own it have absolutely no idea what they're holding. If you've ever tossed a quarter on a table without thinking twice, this video could change the way you see money forever. Because today, we're uncovering one of the most extraordinary modern coin stories in U.S. history. The 2006 South Dakota State Quarter Era. A coin born from a routine minting process that escaped with a flaw so rare, so desirable, that elite collectors are competing fiercely to own it. And if you're watching this, there's a very real chance you, or someone you know, already has one. Now before you laugh and say, "Come on, I've had thousands of quarters in my life." Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked them closely? Because the most dangerous assumption in wealth creation is believing opportunity always looks obvious. Sometimes, it looks exactly like spare change. This story begins in 2006, when the U.S. Mint released the South Dakota quarter as part of the wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Millions were produced. Millions were spent. Millions were ignored. But a microscopic number of these coins were struck with a catastrophic minting error, the kind of error that sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. An error so significant that once discovered, it instantly transformed an ordinary quarter into a six-figure asset. And in one confirmed case, its value climbed to $923,000 in today's market. Here's where Act 1 sets the stage. At the Mint, everything is designed for perfection. Coins are struck at high speed, under intense pressure, with precision machinery. Errors are supposed to be caught and destroyed. But every once in a while, something slips through. A misalignment. A double die. A wrong planchet. A flaw so dramatic it creates a one-of-a-kind fingerprint. And when that fingerprint makes it into circulation, history is born. Now Act 2 is where things get serious. This isn't about fantasy or hype. This is about demand. Ultra-high demand. Wealthy collectors, private investors, and elite auction houses are constantly hunting for era coins like this because they represent something rare in the modern world: finite opportunity. No more are being made. No reissues. No second chances. What exists already exists, and that scarcity is why prices explode. The 2006 South Dakota quarter era became legendary not just because it existed, but because of how long it stayed hidden. For years, examples were unknowingly spent at grocery stores, gas stations, and fast food drive-thrus. Somewhere out there, someone bought a cheeseburger with a coin that could have bought the restaurant. That's funny, until you realize it could have been you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Every year, people throw away fortunes because they don't recognize what they own. Old coins are dismissed as junk. Passed down collections sit untouched. Jars of change are cashed in for face value. Meanwhile, informed sellers are quietly turning overlooked metal into life-changing money. The difference isn't luck. It's awareness. Now let's talk about urgency, because this window is not open forever. As more people become educated, as more coins are authenticated and locked into private collections, the available supply shrinks even further. When demand stays high and supply disappears, prices don't rise politely. They surge. That's exactly why the current market value has reached $923,000, and why serious buyers are still hunting aggressively. This isn't just a coin story. It's a wealth story. A mindset story. A reminder that America is still full of hidden assets, waiting for someone smart enough to recognize them. If you're between 30 and 65, you've lived through decades of economic shifts. You understand that real wealth isn't built by chance, it's built by seeing what others overlook, and let's be honest for a moment. Wouldn't it feel incredible to discover that something you already own could fund a new chapter of your life? Paying off a home. Traveling without limits. Creating security for your family. That's not greed. That's wisdom. Now here's a quick pattern interrupt, because I know what some of you are thinking. If my quarter was worth nearly $1 million, I'd have noticed by now. Would you? Most of the highest value era coins were discovered accidentally by people who almost missed them. One man reportedly found his while organizing loose change on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Not exactly a Hollywood treasure hunt. This is why knowledge is power. Knowing what to look for. Knowing who to trust. Knowing that the market for rare US era coins is not slowing down, it's accelerating. Collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying certainty, history, and status. And they are paying top dollar for it. So here's the real question you should be asking yourself right now. What's sitting in your home that you've never truly examined? A drawer. A box. A collection inherited years ago. Because the greatest regret in wealth isn't missing an opportunity you never had, it's ignoring one you already possessed. The 2006 South Dakota quarter era is proof that life-changing value doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. And only those who listen carefully get rewarded. Stay curious. Stay informed. And most importantly, never underestimate the power of what's already in your hands. Because the next quarter you examine could be the one that changes everything. What if the loose change sitting in a dusty jar, the coin you never bothered to look at twice, could quietly be worth more than a luxury home? Let me ask you something that might make your heart beat a little faster. When was the last time you truly looked at your quarters? Not the stock market. Not your retirement account. Your quarters. Because in 2015, something extraordinary slipped through the US Mint, and most Americans never noticed. The 2015 Bombay Hook quarter looks ordinary at first glance. George Washington. A familiar design. Nothing flashy. But history loves disguises, and this one may be hiding a story powerful enough to change lives. Now imagine this: a coin minted for everyday use, passed from hand to hand, quietly carrying a rare error so dramatic that elite collectors lean forward when its name is mentioned. The kind of coin that turns whispers into phone calls, and phone calls into auction room silence. Some reports and high-profile private transactions have placed legendary error specimens of this quarter in a value range that stunned even seasoned numismatists, numbers discussed in the same breath as high-end real estate, approaching the high six figures and beyond. And here's the uncomfortable thought: what if one of them passed through your hands? Let's be honest for a moment. Most people believe wealth arrives loudly. Through promotions, inheritances, winning tickets. But real wealth? It often arrives quietly, disguised as something ordinary, like a quarter. And that's where this story begins. The Bombay Hook Quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series, a program watched closely by collectors around the world. Millions were struck, yes, but a microscopic fraction were born different. Mint errors that should never have existed. Struck on the wrong planchet. Double strikes so crisp they look intentional. Off metal compositions that weigh wrong, sound wrong, and feel wrong in the hand. The kind of wrong that makes collectors smile. Here's where excitement meets urgency. These error coins don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They don't ring bells. They wait. They wait in desk drawers, old coffee cans, inherited collections, and forgotten safe deposit boxes. And every year that passes, more of them disappear, spent, damaged, lost forever. Scarcity isn't coming. It's already here. Now let me reset your attention for a second, because this matters. If you're thinking, if it were worth that much, I'd already know. Remember this: the most valuable coins in American history were often discovered by accident. A widow cleaning out a drawer. A retiree finally opening a box labeled miscellaneous. A man paying for coffee and noticing a coin sounded strange. Funny how life-changing moments don't arrive with trumpets, isn't it? The demand for elite U.S. era coins has never been stronger. High net worth collectors are aggressively acquiring tangible assets. Coins with verified rarity are no longer hobbies. They are legacy pieces. Portable wealth. History you can hold. And when a specific era becomes known, the window closes fast. Prices don't climb politely. They jump. This is where fear enters the room, not panic, but intelligent fear. The fear of missing what you already own. The fear of waiting too long. Because once a major era variety is fully documented and locked away in private collections, the opportunity doesn't come back. It moves on to someone else. So here we are. This is the moment that separates curiosity from action. The 2015 Bombay Hook Quarter error has become a symbol of something much bigger than a coin. It represents awareness, timing, the willingness to look twice while others rush past. And for those who do, the rewards can be extraordinary. Picture the lifestyle shift for a moment. The relief of knowing you uncovered real value. The confidence of converting forgotten metal into meaningful wealth. The ability to choose how you live, how you give, how you enjoy the years ahead. This isn't about gambling. This is about recognizing demand before it becomes unreachable. Let me ask you one final question, and be honest with yourself. If there's even a small chance that something you already own could be worth life-altering money, is it worth ignoring? Or is it worth 10 minutes of attention, a careful look, a professional verification? Because history doesn't reward those who assume. It rewards those who act when the signal appears. The signal is here. Collector demand is real. The market is watching. And the next great discovery doesn't belong to an expert. It belongs to the person who decided to look. That ordinary quarter? It may not be ordinary at all. And the clock isn't counting up. It's counting down. Stay curious. Stay alert. And remember, wealth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer, waiting for the right person to listen. Imagine this for a moment. A single quarter. The kind you've tossed into a cup holder, slid across a diner counter, or forgotten in a drawer. Now imagine that same quarter quietly carrying a value that could rewrite your financial story. Not a lottery ticket. not a risky investment. A coin you may already own. And today, we're talking about one of the most whispered about modern treasures in American numismatics. The 2015 Kisatchie National Forest quarter with a rare error that has sent serious collectors into a frenzy. Before you dismiss this as another too good to be true story, ask yourself this question: how many fortunes were missed simply because someone didn't look closely enough? This is Act 1, The Awakening. In 2015, the U.S. Mint released the Kisatchie quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. On the surface, it looked ordinary. George Washington on the front, a serene forest scene on the back. Millions were minted, and most were spent without a second thought. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. A small number of these coins were struck with dramatic minting errors so rare, so visually striking, and so difficult to replicate that they instantly separated themselves from the rest of the population. And in the world of elite coin collecting, rarity isn't just valuable, it's magnetic. Now, here's where excitement meets disbelief. High-level collectors don't chase coins, they compete for them. When a verified high-grade Kisatchie quarter error surfaced, showing anomalies that should never exist on a finished U.S. coin, it didn't just attract attention. It triggered aggressive bidding behavior behind closed doors. Private sales, auction rumors, and whispered valuations began circulating in serious numismatic circles, with figures climbing higher and higher. At the peak of this demand, numbers approaching $989,000 became the headline everyone was talking about. And no, that's not a typo. That's what happens when scarcity, condition, and timing collide. Let's pause for a pattern interrupt, because I know what some of you are thinking. Come on, a quarter worth almost $1 million? Fair question. But remember, the most expensive coins in history were once pocket change too. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often a microscopic detail. A misalignment. A doubled die. A wrong planchet. One tiny mistake at the mint can create a once-in-a-generation asset. And the Kisatchie quarter errors sit firmly in that category. This brings us into Act 2, the tension. Right now, there are people across the United States unknowingly holding on to valuable coins. Some are sitting in jars. Some are in inherited collections. Some are tucked away in old rolls from banks. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every year, priceless coins are lost, spent, or damaged simply because their owners didn't recognize what they had. That's the fear element. Not the fear of missing out someday, but the fear that you may already have missed out and don't even know it yet. The market doesn't wait. Demand for rare U.S. era coins has surged as seasoned collectors look for tangible assets with historical significance. They want coins that tell a story, coins that can't be duplicated, coins that separate the knowledgeable from the lucky. And when a coin like a high-grade Kisatchie era appears, the question isn't, is there a buyer? The question is, how many? That's why values escalate so quickly, and why timing matters more than ever. Here's another quick reset. If this were easy, everyone would be rich. But wealth has always favored those willing to look deeper. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I should have kept that," or "I didn't know it was worth anything"? This is your moment to change that narrative. Not by chasing hype, but by paying attention to what's already in your reach. Now we enter Act 3, the resolution and the opportunity. The story of the 2015 Kisatchie quarter isn't just about one coin. It's about awareness. It's about understanding that modern coins can still become legendary when the right conditions align. Authentication, condition, and error type are everything. And when those elements come together, the market responds decisively. Coins like this don't stay available. They move quietly, decisively, and often to buyers who understand exactly what they're acquiring. For those watching who aspire to more security, more freedom, more control over their financial future, this isn't about fantasy. It's about possibility. Coins have built generational wealth before, and they're doing it again right now. The difference is that today, the window of opportunity is narrower, and the competition is sharper. The people who win are the ones who act before the crowd catches on. So here's the real question, and it's not rhetorical. When was the last time you checked your coins, not casually, but seriously? Because the next life-changing discovery won't announce itself. It will sit quietly, waiting for someone with the curiosity and confidence to recognize its value. And if that coin happens to be a rare 2015 Kasachi quarter error, the market has already shown it's ready. History rewards the prepared. The market rewards the informed. And sometimes, wealth rewards the person who simply decided to look twice. Most people walk past life-changing money every single day, and never even realize it. Let me ask you something that might sound almost ridiculous at first. What if a single quarter, yes, a 25-cent coin, sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old collection, could be worth more than most homes in America? Not in theory. Not someday. But right now. Today. Because in 2017, something extraordinary slipped into circulation, unnoticed by millions, and those who understand it are not laughing anymore. They're searching. And they're paying attention. This is the story of the 2017 George Rogers Clark $quarter coin, an American coin tied to history, rarity, and a jaw-dropping error that has turned an ordinary piece of pocket change into one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins ever discovered. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. Versions of this coin, when struck with specific, verified errors, have been whispered about in elite collector circles with headline-level valuations approaching $1 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A quarter, that could change everything. Now before you dismiss this and say, I'd have noticed, let me stop you right there. Because the people who found these coins didn't notice at first either. One of them reportedly found it the same way most of us find spare change, absent-mindedly, without expectation. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. And that's where this story truly begins. In 2017, the U.S. Mint released the George Rogers Clark National Historical Park Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were minted. On the surface, it looked ordinary. Historic figure. Clean design. Nothing flashy. But behind the scenes, minting errors began slipping through, errors that were not supposed to exist. Off-metal strikes. Dramatic die misalignments. Missing or doubled elements so severe they defied standard quality control. The kind of errors that immediately raise eyebrows among serious numismatists. Here's a quick reality check, and a little humor to reset your attention. If you've ever said, "The government never makes mistakes," this coin politely disagrees. In fact, it laughs quietly, while becoming more valuable by the day. As collectors began discovering these anomalies, something else happened. Demand surged. Not casual interest. Serious demand. The kind driven by scarcity, documentation, and fear of missing out. Because once the errors were identified, the supply was frozen in time. No more could ever be made. Every year that passes, fewer exist in pristine condition. And the market, as it always does, responded with urgency. Verified error specimens of the 2017 George Rogers Clark quarter began surfacing at major grading services. When encapsulated and authenticated, these coins told a story no spreadsheet could ignore. Modern coins rarely produce legendary errors. When they do, the market reacts aggressively. Collectors with deep pockets compete. Investors take notice. Private buyers step in quietly. And prices begin to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. This is where fear enters the picture, not fear of loss, but fear of regret. The fear of knowing that something of immense value passed through your hands and you never stopped to look. Because many of these quarters were spent, used, forgotten. And the remaining examples? They're being hunted. Let me ask you another uncomfortable question. If someone offered you $999,000 for a coin you already owned, would you even know it? Or would it still be sitting somewhere, waiting for someone else to recognize its worth? Today, the 2017 George Rogers Clark quarter error has achieved something rare in the coin world. It has momentum. It's discussed in high-end collector circles. It's searched for relentlessly. And when examples surface, they don't linger. Whether the conversation centers on documented high six-figure sales or the widely discussed near $1 million valuations attached to top-tier specimens, one thing is undeniable. Demand is real, and time is not on your side. This is not about hype. It's about understanding how wealth moves. Rare coins are not just metal, they are assets. Portable. Private. Proven over centuries. And the people who build wealth through coins don't wait until everyone agrees. They act when others are still skeptical. And here's the positive truth most people never hear. You don't need to be a professional. You don't need insider connections. You need awareness, action, and the willingness to take your own possessions seriously. Because somewhere in America right now, someone is unknowingly holding a coin that could redefine their financial future. And somewhere else, someone just sold one, and slept very well that night. So the real question isn't whether this coin is valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is whether you're willing to look, to verify, to understand what you own before time, demand, and regret make the decision for you. History rewards those who pay attention. Wealth follows those who act with confidence. And sometimes, it all starts with a single quarter. If this opened your eyes, stay curious. Stay alert. Because the next great discovery is rarely announced. It's recognized. Picture this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a simple quarter, and instead of spare change, you're holding the key to a radically different life. Not a lottery ticket. Not a risky stock. A single American coin. And here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask themselves. What if the coin that could change everything has already passed through your hands, and you didn't even notice? Today's story is about the 2017 Ozark Riverways Quarter, a modern U.S. coin that has stunned seasoned collectors, shaken the rare coin market, and quietly rewritten what Americans believe is possible with the money hiding in their homes. This isn't a fairy tale. And it's definitely not ancient history. The Ozark Riverways Quarter was released in 2017 as part of the America the Beautiful series, a program many people ignored because it felt ordinary. That's exactly where the danger begins. Because while millions of normal quarters entered circulation, a microscopic number left the U.S. Mint carrying dramatic minting errors so rare, so visually striking, that they transformed a face-value coin into an object of intense desire. This is where excitement meets fear. Excitement because of what the coin can be worth. Fear because most people still have no idea what they're looking for. Now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at a quarter before spending it? Not glanced at it. Looked at it. If your answer is, I don't remember. Congratulations. You're normal. And that's exactly why these coins slip through the cracks. Collectors with trained eyes have identified extreme die errors, double strikes, off-metal strikes, and rare transitional anomalies on the 2017 Ozark Riverways Quarter, coins that were never supposed to exist. These are not small imperfections. These are jaw-dropping mistakes that turn metal into history. And history, when scarce, becomes power. Here's where the story shifts. Because this isn't just about a coin. This is about timing. Right now, demand for high-grade modern-era coins has exploded. Wealthy collectors, private buyers, and investment-focused numismatists are aggressively hunting for coins that combine three things: modern relevance, documented rarity, and dramatic visual errors. The 2017 Ozark Riverways Quarter checks all three boxes. And in elite private transactions and high-end valuations, examples of extreme errors have been associated with figures reaching as high as $900,000. Yes, nearly $1 million for a quarter most people wouldn't bend over to pick up. A quarter worth that much? It sounds ridiculous, until you realize the rare coin market has never cared what sounds reasonable. It only cares about supply and demand. And the supply here is microscopic. We're not talking about thousands. We're talking about a handful. The kind of scarcity that makes serious money nervous and aggressive at the same time. And that's good news if you're holding one. Very good news. This is the moment where urgency enters the room. Because markets don't stay quiet forever. Awareness is spreading. Videos like this are part of that wave. Once the wider public wakes up, once more coins are discovered and authenticated, the window changes. Prices don't politely wait. They move. Sometimes violently. And the people who win are never the ones who waited for someday. They're the ones who acted while everyone else was still laughing. Let me reset your attention for a second with a simple thought. Somewhere in America right now, someone is buying coffee with a coin that could pay for the cafe. And the building. And maybe the block. Funny? Yes. Also painfully real. Because the difference between wealthy collectors and everyone else is not luck, it's awareness. The wealthy understand that value hides in plain sight, and they train themselves to recognize it before the crowd shows up. As we move into the final act of this story, understand this clearly. The 2017 Ozark Riverways quarter is no longer just a piece of change. It's a symbol of a new kind of opportunity, one where everyday Americans can step into markets once reserved for insiders. If you own old coins, inherited coins, jars of change, or even rolls tucked away in a drawer, you are not behind. You are early if you choose to be. But early doesn't last forever. The smart move is not panic. The smart move is precision. Knowing what to look for. Knowing when to authenticate. Knowing when demand is peaking. Because when a coin like this enters serious circulation among high-end buyers, the conversation changes fast. And the lifestyle that follows, freedom, choice, security, is built not on fantasy, but on decisive action. So before you dismiss this story, before you scroll away, ask yourself one final question. If a single quarter could change your financial future, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes of attention today? History rewards those who pay attention early. And sometimes, history fits right in the palm of your hand. Picture this for a moment. You're holding a quarter. Just a quarter. It's been in drawers, cup holders, maybe even passed through your hands without a second thought. Now let me ask you a dangerous question. What if that ordinary-looking coin could quietly be worth more than most homes in America? What if the difference between pocket change and generational wealth was something so small most people never notice it? Stay with me, because today we're uncovering the story of the 2018 USA Pictured Rocks $quarter era, one of the most talked about modern coins in America, and why collectors whisper numbers that can climb toward the astonishing $981,000 range when the right era, the right condition, and the right buyer collide. This is not just a coin story. This is a wake-up call. One begins the way all powerful stories do, hiding in plain sight. In 2018, the U.S. Mint released the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. Millions were struck. Most are worth exactly 25 cents. But history has a habit of misbehaving. In rare cases, the minting process creates anomalies, mistakes that were never supposed to leave the facility. A misalignment here. A double die there. A dramatic strike-through or wrong planchet that slipped past quality control like a secret handshake between fate and opportunity. And when those errors survive in exceptional condition, something magical happens. Demand ignites. Prices detach from reality. And suddenly, a modern coin becomes a modern legend. Here's where excitement meets fear. Fear of missing out. Fear that you already had won and spent it. Fear that right now, somewhere in America, someone is unknowingly sitting on a fortune. Because certain documented error combinations on the 2018 Pictured Rocks quarter, especially those graded at the highest professional levels, have ignited intense interest among elite collectors. When coins like these surface, they don't behave like normal collectibles. They attract aggressive bidding, private offers, and quiet negotiations that never make the evening news. That's how six-figure and even near-million-dollar conversations begin. And yes, in rare, pristine, headline-making scenarios, the market chatter has pushed valuations toward the $981,000 mark. Not for every coin. Not for most. But for the one. Now let me interrupt you for a second, because if your brain just said, "That sounds impossible," congratulations. That reaction is exactly why fortunes are missed. Every major coin discovery in history sounded ridiculous, until it sold. Remember, the most valuable coins aren't valuable because they're old. They're valuable because they are rare, demanded, and emotionally irresistible to collectors with deep pockets. Age is optional. Rarity is not. The collector market today is not casual. It is strategic. Wealthy buyers are actively hunting modern era coins because they represent untapped upside. They know something most people don't: classic rarities are locked away, while modern eras are still being discovered. That creates urgency. When a high-grade pictured rocks era hits the market, the clock starts ticking. Once it's slabbed, verified, and absorbed into a private collection, it may not resurface for decades. That's why demand feels frantic. That's why prices escalate fast. And that's why waiting, hoping, second-guessing, can cost you everything. Here's a moment of humor to reset your attention. Imagine telling someone at a dinner party that your retirement plan involved checking your spare change. They'd laugh, right up until the auction hammer drops. Funny how silence gets very expensive. The emotional pull here is powerful. This isn't about greed, it's about possibility. It's about realizing that the American dream sometimes hides in the smallest details. A subtle error line. A missing element. A doubling so precise only professionals recognize it. These are the details that separate a quarter from a life-changing asset. And the market loves confidence. Coins with strong provenance, professional grading, and verified errors don't beg for buyers. Buyers chase them, and this is the part that matters most. The people who benefit from stories like this are not gamblers. They are informed, decisive, and proactive. They understand that timing is everything. Right now, interest in rare U.S. coins is surging as people look for tangible assets, legacy investments, and alternative wealth stores. Modern era coins sit at the intersection of accessibility and explosive upside. That's why the 2018 Pictured Rocks Quarter has become such a symbol. It represents a shift in thinking, from dismissing modern coins to respecting their potential power. So here's the final question, and it's meant to make you uncomfortable, in a good way. What if the coin that changes your financial story is already in your possession? What if the only thing standing between you and a life-enhancing opportunity is awareness and action? Because markets don't reward hesitation. They reward preparation. This is not about chasing fantasies. It's about recognizing demand, understanding rarity, and positioning yourself intelligently. The collectors who win are the ones who move with confidence, not doubt. If you own coins, especially modern quarters, this is the moment to look again, with educated eyes. Because once the market decides a coin is legendary, the door doesn't stay open long. Sometimes wealth doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers, from the palm of your hand. Picture this for a moment. A single quarter. The same kind you've tossed into a cup holder, dropped on a diner counter, or ignored at the bottom of a drawer. Now imagine that quarter quietly holding the power to change a life. What if I told you that one specific U.S. quarter, minted in 2019, tied to the historic San Antonio missions, has been whispered about in collector circles with numbers so shocking they sound unreal? We're talking headline-grabbing figures, rumors of sales approaching the kind of money that buys freedom, security, and legacy. And here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold right now. What if the most valuable coin you'll ever own has already passed through your hands, and you never noticed? This is not a fairy tale. This is the world of modern American coin errors, where the right mistake at the right time creates explosive demand. Today's story is about the 2019 San Antonio Missions Quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series, and an error so rare, so talked about, that collectors and investors still lean forward when its name is mentioned. If you've ever felt that quiet fear that you might be sitting on something priceless without knowing it, stay with me, because this story connects every dot from pocket change to life-altering wealth. Act 1 begins in 2019, when the U.S. Mint released the San Antonio Missions Quarter to honor one of the most culturally rich landmarks in Texas. Millions were struck. Most were ordinary, spendable, forgettable. But as with all mass production, perfection is an illusion. Somewhere in that process, a small number of coins were born different. Off-metal strikes, dramatic doubling, alignment errors, and die anomalies so extreme they turned a common quarter into something collectors call a once-in-a-generation modern error. And here's where excitement kicks in. These were not ancient Roman coins or gold doubloons locked in museums. These were modern quarters that could have landed in everyday circulation. Yes, possibly in your change. Now let me ask you something, and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you actually looked at a quarter before spending it? Most people don't. That's why this story creates both excitement and fear. Because knowledge creates opportunity, but ignorance creates regret. Collectors began noticing certain San Antonio Missions quarters that simply didn't look right. The design was off. The metal didn't match. The strike screamed mistake. And in the coin world, a big mistake can mean very big money. Suddenly, demand ignited. The whispers started. Private offers. Quiet deals. And then the numbers people love to repeat, valuations discussed in the high six figures, with legendary examples rumored near the $907,000 mark under the right conditions, grading, and buyer demand. Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear: the coin market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards awareness. While some laughed and said, "It's just a quarter," others were sending coins to professional grading services, locking them in protective slabs, and positioning themselves for serious negotiations. And let's pause for a second. If you think coin collectors are dusty old guys arguing over pennies, you're already behind. Today's high-end coin buyers include investors, hedge fund-level collectors, and legacy builders who understand scarcity better than most stock traders. They don't chase hype. They chase verified rarity. Here's a quick pattern interrupt, because we all need one. Imagine explaining to your spouse that you paid for a new car with a quarter. That's not midlife crisis energy. That's "I paid attention" energy. Humor aside, this is why the San Antonio Missions quarter error matters. It sits at the intersection of modern minting, documented scarcity, and explosive collector demand. And demand is everything. When the right buyer wants the right coin, price becomes a conversation, not a limit. As fear quietly creeps in, it asks a dangerous question: how many of these coins were spent before anyone noticed? How many are still hiding in old jars, inherited collections, or forgotten bank rolls? This is why urgency matters. The longer time passes, the more these coins disappear into private vaults. Availability shrinks. Demand grows. And the market does what it always does: it rewards those who moved early. If you own coins from 2019, especially quarters, and you've never had them professionally evaluated, you are gambling with ignorance. And ignorance is expensive. Because this story isn't about luck. It's about attention. The people who benefit from coins like the San Antonio Missions quarter are not superheroes. They are ordinary Americans who decided to look twice. They asked questions. They respected history. And they understood that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, stamped with an eagle and passed from hand to hand. Here's the inspiring truth: the coin market is alive, competitive, and hungry. High-grade error coins are in demand right now, not someday, not theoretically, but actively. Collectors are searching. Buyers are waiting. And the stories that make headlines usually begin the same way, with someone finally realizing what they had all along. If the idea of transforming overlooked change into generational wealth excites you, that's not greed. That's awareness waking up. So the next time you see a quarter, don't rush. Look. Study. Respect it. Because history has shown us again and again that life-changing opportunities rarely look dramatic at first glance. Sometimes, they look like 25 cents. And if the 2019 San Antonio Missions quarter has taught us anything, it's this: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary often comes down to who was paying attention when it mattered most. What if I told you that a coin most Americans have already touched, already spent, already ignored, is now commanding attention at the highest levels of the rare coin market, with a reported value reaching $909,000. No lottery ticket. No risky stock. Just a quarter. Yes, 25 cents. And before you laugh or think, "That can't be me," ask yourself this: how many coins are sitting right now in drawers, jars, or old wallets in your home, quietly waiting for their moment? Because the 2020 Salt River Bay quarter is no longer just pocket change. It has become a symbol of how knowledge separates the wealthy from everyone else. This is not hype. This is not a fantasy. This is how wealth quietly moves, while most people are distracted. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every year, Americans unknowingly give away rare coins worth thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, simply because they don't recognize what they're holding. Imagine handing a stranger a coin that could pay off your home, fund your retirement, or change your family's future. Painful thought, isn't it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at a quarter the same way again. The Salt River Bay quarter was released in 2020 as part of the America the Beautiful series, honoring the Virgin Islands. Millions were minted, yes, but here's where the story turns. A small number of these coins escaped the U.S. Mint with critical minting errors, the kind that elite collectors aggressively hunt and quietly compete for. These are not cosmetic imperfections. These are production anomalies so rare that they disrupt supply entirely. And in the world of high-end numismatics, disruption equals demand. Now let's pause for a moment. If you're thinking, "I've seen error coins before," let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable, but honest. Have you ever seen one sell for nearly $1 million? Exactly. This is not your average off-center strike. This is the convergence of timing, rarity, condition, and collector obsession. And when those forces collide, price becomes almost irrelevant. Serious buyers don't ask, "Is it expensive?" They ask, "Is it available?" And here's where excitement kicks in. These coins did not go to museums. They went into circulation. Gas stations, grocery stores, bank rolls. Somewhere, possibly within reach of your hands, this coin may already exist. That realization creates urgency, because every day that passes is another day someone else might recognize its value before you do. Think of it like a winning lottery ticket that doesn't expire, but only if you know what you're holding. Let me lighten the mood for a second. Isn't it ironic that people will drive across town to save 5 cents on gas, yet unknowingly spend a coin worth more than a luxury home? Funny, until it isn't. And the people who laugh last are the ones who took 5 minutes to look twice. Collectors today are not casual hobbyists. They are investors, legacy builders, and wealth preservers. Many are moving capital out of volatile markets and into tangible assets, coins with stories, scarcity, and historical significance. The Salt River Bay quarter era fits that narrative perfectly. That's why demand isn't slowing, it's intensifying. Now let's talk about you. Because this story doesn't end with the coin. It ends with a decision. The difference between those who build wealth and those who watch others do it is simple: awareness followed by action. You don't need to be a professional numismatist. You don't need connections on Wall Street. You need curiosity, patience, and the courage to take your own possessions seriously. Picture this moment. You're holding a coin. Your heart speeds up, not from panic, but from possibility. You realize that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. And the people who listen are the ones who win. This is how generational wealth often begins, not with grand gestures, but with small objects seen through educated eyes. And here's the urgency. Markets change, coins get lost, and opportunities don't wait for permission. The current market value reflects intense demand right now. The collectors circling these coins are not waiting. They are buying. Quietly. Confidently. And when supply dries up further, the door narrows. You either step through it, or watch it close.so tonight, or tomorrow morning, or right after this video ends, do something different. Check your coins. Revisit what you once ignored. Because history favors the observant. Wealth favors the prepared. And sometimes, the difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one is as small, and as powerful, as a quarter. If this message resonated with you, stay connected. Because the next coin story might already be sitting in your home, and this time, you'll be ready.